in good homeschool curriculum, there's lots of different hands-on projects,
Mhm.
but there's a difference between using a project for learning and using a project for assessment.
Yes, that's a very good point.
So a lot of our projects that are going to be in the book are there to cement your learning. They're there to give you a hands-on experience so that you can make strong neural connections between
Yeah.
the experience you just had and the material. And that's great. That's incredibly useful and so, so important. But not all projects make good assessment tools.
Yeah, because you're usually helping in
Mm-hmm.
part of that process, and yeah, it is like you said, a lot of times especially like we did unit studies, it was project-based learning almost all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but I wasn't assessing my kids through what they were doing often because I was part of the project usually.
Right. And a lot of those are, if you go back to that Bloom's pyramid, they're stopping at the application level.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the analysis, maybe. Or they're having you do creation kinds of things, but really it feels creative because you're allowed to be artistic with it, but it's really just application level. Just because, making a folder book isn't necessarily a creation kind of a thing. You're not making something new and solving a problem and creating a new kind of idea or proposing a new kind of solution. You're just building a good repository for the things that you've learned. So useful, but not for assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wanted to give an example of a product that has kind of all of those different Bloom levels built into it. So you can have lots of different kinds of products. This is, I want you, my student, to write a letter to King John. So the product is a letter. So here's the scenario. King John, Prince John if you prefer, the infamous one, has written to you as an impartial third party looking for advice on whether or not to sign the Magna Carta. Write a letter back to King John, offering him your advice. Your letter should include a summary of the events leading up to his current situation, an explanation of the content of the Magna Carta, and predictions about how signing it might impact his reign. Be sure to explain the consequences of either decision.
That's laid out.
So this has a lot of pieces that are kind of baked into it. If you put it through our questioning model, you've got remembering and understanding, summarize the events leading up to John's current situation, and explain the content of the Magna Carta. All right, so that's your basic background knowledge. Your application and analysis, that's your interpretation questions. So predict how signing or not signing the Magna Carta might impact King John's reign. And then lastly, your evaluation and creation level question is give King John advice on whether or not to sign the Magna Carta. Advice is a evaluation and creation level thought process. And now you might have one of those students who says, all right, Mom, I've written this letter, but I need to tell you, I'm giving him bad advice on purpose because I think he's a terrible king, and I know that if he doesn't sign this, he's going to have a revolt and he's going to get deposed, and I want him off the throne. So this is bad advice, but I did the letter just like you asked me to. If you have one of those kids, he has just added a whole nother meta level to this activity and has already demonstrated before you even pick up the letter, he's got a certain level of mastery of this material.
Exactly.
If he can predict that that's what would happen with bad advice,
exactly.
He's thinking on a whole nother tactical level. Now, but if you have a student who's having a hard time just explaining what's in the Magna Carta, that tells you, all right, this is what we need to review. This is what actually happened. And this is what might have happened if things had turned out differently. So you know one way or the other where they are and what you need to do next.